Got my first mentor. Are we starting with it?
Yep.
Yeah?
I like that.
Or ending with it?
Let's end with it. Let's end with it at the end. Oh, it clicked off, Donna. So you're gonna have to come in. For whatever reason, it hung up. Mine says no cellular network available.
Go ahead and start whenever you're ready. We're
Okay.
recording already.
Good enough.
Okay.
All right. All right, we're gonna do this the old-fashioned way without communication. Okay.
And
So
are
Ben,
are we dancing well? Is
Yeah,
this is
very
okay?
well. Very excellent.
Oh, good.
All right, so why Austin? What brought you to Austin, Ben?
Oh, I came here kicking and screaming. I was living in New York City with my girlfriend from Washington, D.C. We had been traveling around Europe for about 5 months or so. And I was getting homesick. A lot of Texans get homesick for Texas, and I was certainly one of them. And I wanted to go home, and I wanted to go surfing, and I wanted to hang out and drink beer and smoke pot with my friends in Victoria. And my sweet girlfriend, the Antioch liberal, had taken her LSAT test, and she was kind of waiting for the results. She was from New York City, from the Upper East Side, and she would be damned if she was going there. And she said, "I'll tell you what, I'll go to Austin, but that is it." So I went, well, I got to go to Texas. So her family wanted me to stay in New York, and her dad was going to get me a job, with a cabinet maker, and it also would have been great. I mean, he was really willing to set me up, and he really wanted me to stick around. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry, I just got to go home.
Yeah.
And so we ended up in Austin, and we ended up on the east side on Manor Road, close to the Roy Lee grocery store, if anybody remembers that, across from the East Side Cafe, which
Yeah.
is just not there anymore.
And what year was this?
1982. My
So-
parents called us the refugees.
Exactly. And so Austin in '82 has just become known for music. Aha, I hear music in the
Wow,
background.
great.
So we may be having
Background.
We may have some interesting.
That was right. That was a
Yeah.
scored. That was a.
It was
that
right
was a
in there. Just as
scored
music was
monologue.
coming in. Yeah. Nice.
So keep talking about the music scene.
So
It was just kind of,
was the music scene just starting then
Oh,
to
no.
become big, or what was the sense of it?
well, Eddie Wilson told me that the day that the music scene happened in Austin was the day that the liquor laws changed from 21 to 18, and the Armadillo headquarters,
Yeah.
their constituency at least doubled in one night, and boom, suddenly Austin, and there was this huge music scene because they had 3 times more people to buy liquor, and so the Armadillo headquarters and the Broken Spoke and all, and the all of them,
Yeah.
Dry Creek, Soap Creek, that's what it was. Soap Creek on Walsh Charlton, all these places just exploded because suddenly they had all this money coming in to buy beer. And that's simply all it was that made all. So by 82, I mean, I was part of that 18-year-old thing. And so I was 25 or 24 or 25 when I moved to Austin in 82.
Mm-hmm.
So it was long done.
Sure.
And so Austin, there wasn't really anything going on here that I knew of. There was, government and the university. And my first job was at the Austin Chronicle.
Yeah.
And I started the classifieds there. Sydney Bramer hired me. God bless her. And my girlfriend at the time, she was just doing whatever she could to make money. She, I think, got a job at the new China restaurant by the Posse East. It was just like, it was hard times. And there was nothing going on here. Nobody had any money in Austin. Nobody had any air conditioning in Austin. And you would just hang out on the front stoop and play music or whatever, or just nothing was going on. I had a little sailboat, so we would go off to Lake Travis and sail. But yeah, listen to that.
Wow.
Let's rock. You want to dance?
So the music started, and the music. I mean, this was the festival began. Was it have that's how it happened? Did that ignite it? You know, to have the South by start and
The music awards started at Club Foot, and I was there at the Chronicle when that started. And
Yeah.
so that started. Club Foot was sort of where it was going on.
And did you get into music at that time? Did you start? You
No.
hadn't yet.
I wasn't interested in any of that. I did stuff. I had a bicycle. I rode my bike, and I went skiing on Lake Austin, and
Yeah.
I had a little sailboat. I'd go sailing, and we were barely making enough to make ends meet. Lived in Travis Heights, which was no big deal. I lived on Nooning Street, had this little house. Cost $365 a month. That was really hard to come up with every month.
I can imagine.
For a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that
Yeah.
was just really cute. I remember having, we'd have little dinner parties and people just, the sweat would be just running off everybody. But nobody made a big deal out of it because that's what everybody's house was like in August. If you had the way that you would go do stuff if you didn't have any money, which was most all of us, is happy hours. If you had enough for a beer, you could go to these bars, and happy hours would have like these buffet spreads, and you go eat chicken wings or whatever they had, spaghetti
Sure.
and meatballs. You just eat whatever, and that was dinner if you could afford that. And so, so I would do things like I published for the Chronicle a happy hour guide to Austin, so all of my poor friends could know all of the best places to eat and what they were serving and what it would take to get that food.
Yeah.
So I mean, there wasn't much going on here.
But were you making art?
No.
You weren't doing neon. You didn't do it to bring it with you when you came from.
I
Washington,
had
DC?
gone in 1980 when I learned about neon in Washington, D.C., and then 1982 when I went back to work at the Washington Project for the Arts, and we did a lot of stage sets and different things using neon. That's where I was introduced to it. I went to Victoria, Texas, our home,
Yes.
and I went to the library, and I was just fascinated by this neon thing. And there was one book called Let There Be Neon by a guy named Rudy Stern in New York. And it was so involved and so like over the top technical. I just thought, oh, forget it, I'll never do that. So it was just kind of on the farthest back burner ever, but it was sort of a dream that I would I would do that one day.
Yeah.
So in 1984, my grandmother died and left me $5,000. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to this school in Anago, Wisconsin it's going to cost about $6,000, and I had a little money in the bank. And I went to this school, and this neon workshop school turned me into a really mediocre apprentice.
Yeah.
And I found an apprenticeship in San Antonio at Texas Neon on Josephine Street, and I would commute back and forth. And that's how I got neon to Austin, my neon. And so all of these customers I had from the Chronicle and Third Coast Magazine, which was my next job before I quit to go to neon school, I just turned all of these people who, unfortunately, I just felt terrible because they were buying print advertising. I knew it didn't work. I felt terrible about it. But I knew that light, like moths to fire, would attract customers. So I started making these neon signs, and they were just terrible. But I could make them work. But I knew that, and they were effective, and it felt good. And so I would turn my old customers, print customers, on to neon.
Yeah.
So there was a place called Toulouse on 6th Street across from Paradise Bar. And this guy kind of had faith in me, and he said, why don't you just turn my place into something interesting? So I went out and bought all these old musical instruments and turned them into these neon things all over the wall. It's kind of silly. And I worked with the great Gary Martin, my next door neighbor, sign painter, who does all of the most beautiful tattoo signs in town. He's done all the P. Terry's and Torchies. He did all of those logos, and what you see is from him.
Wow.
There was a movie about sign painters that went to all these museums all over the world, and he was one of the great masters in he is definitely of note. Anyway, we worked together on these things, and they had a bunch of daiquiri machines, and they weren't doing very well. And I said, if you let me light each one of those daiquiri machines and let Gary make a little sign and name each one of those daiquiris with some kooky name, I said, I bet your business will go up in one night. And it went up 40% in one night. We just put a spotlight on each daiquiri machine, and he made these little signs that named them. And yeah, it was, so that was the effectiveness, the efficacy of what light does about things. So, you know, you grow and you learn and you do things and you sort of use this knowledge to evolve.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had to do my licks as a sign person to get that classical education, to know the repertoire of what glass does and to have integrity in the way that I make it.
Yes.
Because if you don't do that, it's just thin and it breaks and it's just not, it just doesn't have any integrity. So my work looks very fragile, but it's got a lot of integrity. It really holds up under a strain. So, and it's meant to look very delicate, and frankly it is, because, you know, it's as non-delicate as a glass eggshell can be.
Yeah.
Because it's made like a sign, because that was my experience.
And then there's pressure inside, right? I mean, there's vacuum.
There's vacuum.
There's vacuum inside, so that has to, I mean, we're talking about the pressure then coming from the outside.
That's why only glass can be used. There's no plastic that's been developed that you can put that sort of heat and pressure in order to, I'm making light bulbs.
Yes.
I have a light bulb making machine that's called a manifold, and I put argon gas in there. If you ever break the end off of a light bulb, the little
Yes.
brass threaded thing, you'll see this little kind of glass nipple. It's called a tubulation.
Yeah.
And that's what you fill the light bulb with. And that's the machine I have, is the thing that fills that light bulb. And so I use super high voltage, 25,000 volts at a third of an amp, to heat this neon tube up. It has electrodes on either end, and that's what transmits that energy into the tube to light this gas. And so,
what makes them different colors?
well, the glass, the coating inside the glass,
Yes.
and then the gas itself.
So the gas can be a different color
It's
and
either-
from the spectrum.
Yes, I use like I use straight argon, which is a very quiet violet color.
Uh-huh.
If you add a drop of mercury to that, the sign industry is absolutely not interested in that. But I like how subtle and quiet it is. And it makes a lot of beautiful colors with these phosphorescent minerals that I use to make color with. This is my paint set.
Yes.
Are these phosphorescent rocks that I used to grind and put inside the tubes. And so this argon gas, when it's excited, it emits an ultraviolet wavelength,
Yeah.
which lights these phosphorescent minerals up inside the tube like a blacklight poster, like your Jimi Hendrix poster.
Sure.
But it's happening on a tiny level inside of a glass tube that's 13 millimeters in diameter. So if you add a drop of mercury to it, now the sign industry is interested, because when you add a drop of mercury, the resistance of the gas goes way down, and so it becomes a super icy blue, very bright color.
Yeah.
Or intensity, and that's when you see sign colors like yellows and blues and whites and purples, and if you put neon in that same tube, what was pink, what was blue, if you put neon, which is a red gas, in that same tube, what was blue becomes a very pink color, because neon is a sort of an orangey red. And it's so intense, and it can't be duplicated. LEDs come close, but neon, you can see it, as I understand, 50 miles away in the fog. So they use it as navigational lights at airports. And
Yeah.
I put it on top of the Capitol and as a nav aid light in the 90s sometime. I can't remember when. Late 80s maybe.
Now you just came back from South Texas putting in a new installation.
I did.
You putting on some museum stuff. What you go out, one of the things that I love about your story is that you go and find old wood in places that are either being torn down, and salvage it and bring it out and put it in your work.
They're called spirit houses, and I wouldn't know about any of this if I hadn't gone to Southeast Asia and encountered what are spirit houses, or Hopi, or Samprapom is what they call them.
Yeah.
And they're these little shrines that pay homage to the spirit of the land.
Yeah.
And there's a million different spirits of the land. They're like for everything. And the spirit of our ancestors. And I thought that was a really great thing, because in our culture, we don't spend much time honoring the land or our ancestors.
No.
We put them in old folks' home, or
Right.
we clear cut.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of a beautiful thing. And So I was riding my bicycle on the east side over here in 2008 when I got back from this trip where I wrote this blog called Spirit House Safari. It was 2007, 2008. And the East Tour, I got involved in that at Clayworks Gallery on 6th. And I was riding my bike and they were tearing down what was called a Hofheinz house. And E.J. Hofheinz apparently back in the, maybe in the teens, he was building these, this is as I understand, and I could be wrong, but I went with what I understood because I liked the story. He was building these houses, spec houses for emancipated slaves and their families to buy. Well, they were tearing this thing down, and it was a Hofheinz house. And it just broke my heart, and I really had this visceral feeling about it. I'm watching this thing, and I'm thinking, all of these generations of these people that are just being like literally leveled into dust and hauled off to the landfill. Like all of these stories of regular people and their families just evaporating. And not only that, that was the spirit of ancestors happening that was just going away, that would have never happened in Thailand or Cambodia or Laos. But it was the spirit of nature in that this was longleaf pine. And longleaf pine has been virtually extinct, as far as I know. It was the most prevalent and beautiful. It was like a pine hardwood almost. But the wood in this house was like, I found it, I went back and asked the demolition foreman if I could come back and gather some of this stuff and just take it. And he said, well, just don't get a nail in your foot and hurry because we're going to take the... So a lot of this longleaf pine, when I polished the edge of the boards, there would be like 30 rings per inch. Well, 30 rings per inch in a tree that I understand was around 40 inches in diameter. I mean, do the math. I can do that math. That was a 1,200-year-old tree. And 1,200-year-old tree minus 1920, you know, this was like, you know, way pre-Columbian. And, you know, what was going on back then? We don't even know what was going on here, you know, 1,200 years ago.
No.
1,300 years ago.
Exactly.
If you go to 1920. So I decided to take this material and make these sort of carriages out of them, these sort of shadow boxes. And my neon has always been known to kind of have this energy to it. And I would give these, what I call nightsticks, or they're these neon tubes that have all these different colors in them that are welded together. And they're very quiet, and they're subtle, and there's something that people really feel something about when they see them. And every once in a while I'd give them to somebody who was in hospice or their family, and they'd put it on the wall, and I called these spirit antennas. And this stick would be in the room with the dying person. When they died, they'd take the family, the survivors would take the stick with them, and it embodied, it sort of had all of the energy of that time that they all spent together. So I thought, well, wow, what if I just sort of like revitalize these materials that were being demolished and just sent to the, you know, to pasture, literally. What if I was to like put one of these sticks in here to sort of reinvigorate the spirit that was about to be lost? And it made me feel good. And so I went home and I made about 6 of these. And I brought them to Clayworks for the East Side tour, and nobody really paid any mind to them. But Howard Taylor at the San Angelo Museum of Fine Art saw them in 2017, and he said, wow, we should do a show with these. And so I made a huge body of work with them, and we made what was kind of a theoretical traveling show out of these, because I can go anywhere and I can find these materials, and as I go different places, like I went to Beeville after that, and in San Angelo, the body of work for San Angelo was this 100-year-old barn, and it's a really beautiful body of work because the neon is very stark, because it was a barn and I'm responding to the materials. So I'm feeling just the wind blowing through this barn, and I'm seeing thousands of acres of cotton fields, and that's really the information I have to work with. So if you see this work, you can sort of get that. And so that was the work for San Angelo. And then I went to Beeville, to the Beeville Museum of Art, And there was a woman named Margaret Mosier who wrote these books about Beeville history. And it was a book called The Biography of a Particular Place. Such a great title.
Oh,
Isn't that a great
God, what a great title.
So I realized that, wow, it's not just materials that hold this energy, but the words of stories that convey, historical lore. I mean, they have every bit as much energy in them as me telling a story about the past.
Absolutely.
Or you telling me about, there's a lot of energy in that. So I made the next spirit houses out of pages from this history book. They were really beautiful, and so I responded to that in the ways that they look, which are these lamps that kind of look like this mission style, which was very much like Margaret Mosier's 100-year-old home.
Mm-hmm.
And so the most recent one that I just got back from was from a ranch in South Texas, outside of Goliad, and they suffered horrible damages from Hurricane Harvey. And it ripped the copper gutter off of this house, along with part of the roof, and just did enormous damage to this house. But they invited me to make a spirit house after seeing the Beeville show. And they asked me to do this, and I found this piece of copper gutter that they found, I think, 150 yards from the house. The devastation was phenomenal. Anyway, this piece of gutter had been snapped, not snapped, but it just got folded in half. And it takes a lot of force to do that. And these are 160 mile an hour winds, and I think Refugio had 88 tornadoes within these few hours.
Right.
So there were obviously tornadoes all around this house. And it just broke this copper gutter into the V shape, and it kept looking like the Virgin Mary of the Guadalupe to me. And so I made this piece that is a sort of a memorial to that time, and it was really important. You can see the backlighting. It's real subtle purple, but when it gets up to where this broke, I really wanted to express the energy of that moment where the forces of nature just snapped and just bent this thing in half. And so you can see it in this piece. And there was another piece of copper that was a shelf, and it has candles, because it's a very Catholic part of the world, South Texas.
Absolutely.
And so it's a very sort of massy looking shelf with all these candles burning. As a vigil almost to this moment.
It's a terrific moment in our lives. How do you see your next pieces going? What do you see here we're in 2019, and so what are you doing? Where are you growing? Where are you going?
I'm going to Barton Springs a lot, and as far as I don't make plans really. I seem to have a very charmed and lucky life. Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time promoting and pushing, and it just feels so, it just doesn't feel right anymore.
I know.
And if I don't ever get any work again, that would be okay. Although I'm coming off a big high of this installation, so in about 3 weeks I'll get what my wife calls loseritis.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't have any friends, my
Nobody
work
wants
sucks, nobody
yeah.
wants anything, and then hopefully I get a call or a random email from some person. Like, for instance, this wonderful woman in Dallas who just randomly emailed me and said she had built this contemporary home that looks out from the south cliff of Oak Cliff. And she sees the I-30 bridge and all the traffic and the west side of downtown and all the beautiful lights at night. And she said, do you think you could help me answer all of these lights that come at me at night? And I was like, how do you refuse like a poetic invitation?
Yeah.
So the best thing of this is the friends that I get to make. It's like art can be kind of this ingratiating experience, the self-ingratiating thing, but really it's the people and the connections that I get to make that get made along the way.
Do you think about what this bag of stardust that is animated and what how this consciousness of, I'm just really
God,
fascinated
there you
with
go
it.
again.
I know it. Was your mama would be proud of me. Polly Lou would just
She'd
sit there
say,
and go,
"See, I told you
"See,
he
I
was full of
told you,
bull."
I knew he would." But he always has been. It was, it was just
You're a
the
new
way he
acquaintance of
was.
mine. You're a
That
new
was-
friend. I didn't know.
you
It's
know.
always been.
So how
We live in our mother's shadows, Dennis.
don't
you
we
know
just?
that.
Don't we just? Have you been able to get past? I mean, both of us had mothers who were friends in college. They were friends at Incarnate Word,
Yes.
and had some adventures, according to your mother, and according to my mother, even though she's not
Why don't you
around.
tell that? It's one of those stories.
Well, they left. They went to whose hotel room? There was one of the rich girls in Victoria had a hotel room at Incarnate, and they went there and started smoking, and the people came and the people came and got them. And took them back to Incarnate Word, and so they were going to go to Mexico and have some adventures down
Oh,
in
man.
Mexico. So
Okay.
it was,
I thought this was where Ted Shields ran away from Shiner military school and kidnapped my mother, and they all took the bus home.
another one of the the stories. But why don't you play us out of here with a song that would be dedicated to Madeline O'Connor?
I want me some immediate gratification. If I don't get me some soon, I'm gonna take myself another long vacation. It's been day in and day out as I gaze in and I daze out, yeah. She was a searching vine. She was married to the king. I once saw her reaching for heaven by the ways that she looks at things. Hop up on that tuna fish can. Yeah, I bet you can see about 100 miles across that dried up Coletta Creek bed that's cracked into 1 billion tiles. She got me to look. She got me to look a little. She got me to look a little bit deeper in. I'm hungry for a midnight snack. Wanna chase that monkey off of my back. Still looking to turn a cheap trick. Yeah, I'm still hoping to get rich quick, but she got me to look. She got me to look a little, yeah. She got me to look a little bit deeper in. Fleming prairie grass still does a hula dance in the South Texas breeze so fine. I'm here to tell you all that Madeline O'Connor, she was a friend of mine. She got me to look. She got me to look a little, yeah. She got me to look a little bit deeper in. I'm so glad that I was able to write Madeline a letter before she died. Patty and I were down in Oaxaca City, Mexico, this old ancient Zapotec market. Business as usual, just like it's been for hundreds of years. We were sitting under this old shade tree, and I looked up to see the only beam of golden sunlight making its way down through the leaves and the branches of this old tree and landing right in front of us on this old market table there. Totally engulfing this giant black Oaxacan clay rosary there. If you'd have known Madeline's artwork, you'd know exactly why she came to my mind. if you know me, I'm a big old moth to fire, so I had to get up and take a little closer look. And upon further examination, I noticed this radiant explosion of rainbow colors dancing all around those bees. It was red, green, blue, and aqua, and gold, and magenta, and orange, and pink, and this amazing emerald green that was backed up to this purple, violet, indigo. So I want you to know that every time I think I'm going to sing this song out like this, I go in my closet and I get this pretty green shirt, iron it up, and I go back into the closet and I get this old cotton purple vest that me and my buddies got on the streets of Kathmandu, Nepal a long time ago. And I wear this green shirt and this purple vest because it reminds me that magic moment in time, that special moment when Madeline, she got me to look. She got me to look a little. She got me to look a little bit deep. Yeah. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Did we do it?
Yeah, we did it. And you played us past so that I think we're going to be able to deal with the music with the, so we'll be able to take some of that